Greetings, miniature wargamers. Today, we'll be doing the first part in our scratch-built Warhound Titan project. We will be using the PDF found online, which is pretty common. It's very easy to do. You can print it out on standard 8.5 by 11 paper, right from your printer at home. And you can make this out of many different materials, from simple cardstock, which I've already done in the past, all the way up to plastic card, or even, resin casting if you feel adventurous enough to do such a thing. Today we'll be using foam board, which, while cheap, presents its own problems because the foam does not like superglue as it melts it. However, to combat this, I'm trying out this new product that I found, which is Go-To Glue, which is advertised as being somewhat like superglue and somewhat like normal Elmer's glue. It sets in 30 minutes, but I have already tested this on the foam and it does not melt the foam, which is exactly what we need. In addition to this, we'll also be using some plastic card, also easily acquirable. I got all these things at Walmart. Plastic card, just a for sale sign. Yeah, $2, real easy. So, we'll be getting started on this. We're going to be doing the main body today. So first we need to find the page for the main body. Set the rest of them aside. We'll need them later. Now, this is going to be sort of experimental, as I have never, in fact, tried this before, at least this material before, so it will require some experimenting with different techniques. The tools you'll need are box cutters or an X-Acto knife, some sort of writing implement, and a ruler, and of course the glue. So let's get started. It's probably going to be pretty boring for the first part. It's going to involve me cutting various things out. Okay, so we have extricated our first piece. So the way I'm planning on doing this is basically having this part be multiple pieces cut out from here, and then the front and back being a singular piece. So my game plan is basically to cut out the template on here using an X-Acto knife. And even if we mess up on a piece, well, we can just reprint it out because, well, paper's pretty cheap. So now that we have that piece, let's start by cutting out, I mean marking out the outline for this on So, while this first video is going to be traditional record, edit, and put up, I am planning on putting up the rest of this streaming if I get enough attention on this. If not, I'll continue to do it the standard way of just record, edit, and put out. However, if there is interest in the streamed version of this, I'll certainly be willing to put it out. However, it will be a long process unless I do multiple cuts and just go, oh, and all my parts are cut out. So we'll just start gluing. Or I could alternatively do some sort of fast camera action and just have everything done by the time you guys see it. Just speed up. But for right now, I will just do the standard way and just suck it up. Alright, so there's our first piece. Pretty easy. So set that aside. So the problem presented with this is because it's printed out on paper, it takes into account the fact that it is paper and thus has almost no thickness, whereas the foam board I'm using is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to have to take that into account when I make this by making certain parts of it be slightly smaller or be indented. Like this one, all the pieces are going to be on the inside, so it's going to be kind of like this. So that will just be a challenge that we will cross when we get to it. So this is not my first foray into scratch building of Titans. As I said before, I had built a Warhound previously out of cardstock. However, it suffered a terrible fate at the hands of one of my coworkers who crushed it with a folding table. Hopefully this one shall not suffer a similar fate. And it will hopefully last 1,000 years. In the future, I do plan on building one entirely out of plasticard. However, because I'm from the US, plasticard not as easy to get a hold of as in, say, the UK. It's also not even called plasticard in the United States. It's simply known as poly sheet styrene. You can get it at places like Hobbytown and stuff like that, but it's all really expensive. And the sheet I got, while it's a little bit on the thinner than I would like it to be, it's actually not too terrible. It's like $2 for the entire, like, 600 square feet or whatever, or square inches of it, so it's pretty reasonable. Piece number 2. Pretty simple, pretty easy. It's coming along. So my plan is basically to put it like this, and then I'm going to shave off the corners with a knife all the way down to here, and then put the next piece in like so. That's basically the plan for right now. So I need to glue this piece in here. So let's see how well this glue works, because, well, it doesn't melt the foam. We'll see if it has any other adverse effects, or just doesn't want to come out. Alright. So we need this thing to pretty flush with the outside. Think I'm probably going to end up having to cover up all of the edges that are still exposed with foam, probably with the plasticard. However, that is a future issue. For right now, we'll continue to... it worked out pretty well. It's actually holding exceedingly well. Holding up quite well, in fact. So it's not instantaneous like super glue is, but it's still really good. Honestly, I'm not even disappointed, because it's goopy enough, whereas I don't need to hold a vertical piece in place like that, whereas I would normally have to do a thing like that. But for this one, for this glue, turns out I don't actually have to do that, which is going to save me a lot of time overall, which is very good. So I would, just based on that, recommend it. However, might be a little bit too early for such a recommendation. Need to see how it holds up to continued use and see if after it sets it's as good as it should be. So this is going to take some time to dry, so we're going to have a little jump break while that happens, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we're back, and now that it's had time to dry, I've actually added some more things onto it. I've added some of the back pieces here. They're supposed to go, and I've also added 2 of the struts here, but I'm going to show you how I got those to fit, because using the normal templates, they wouldn't fit, because basically it would be the paper around, like this, would be the normal template, so you have to cut out the inner edges so that it will fit in because of the thickness. So what you do is basically you take your knife, and then you just cut it at an angle, like so. Pretty easy. Make sure things don't fall in. Alright. You gotta do the same thing for this edge over here. Alright. So we're just gonna do it for this side too, just to save some time. Okay, now, so this will look like this, which is all bent in like so. Oh, glare. So they'll all be in them like that. So next, you have to do the same thing to these. A little bit of an angular cut. Might take a little bit of fitting to get them in there. Just trim until it'll fit. Right, and that's how you get that to look like that. So now we just need to get these two last pieces measured up and fit into place, and have to wait for it to dry. So when we come back, that should all be done. So be back in just a few minutes. Alright guys, so while our stuff is drying, I've started cutting out some more pieces, mostly for the foot assembly. So basically, I've determined that it's easier to just glue multiple layers together than cut this and then side pieces. So for these foot pads, it'll be 3 thick. For the ankle piece, it'll be 1 thick. For the ankle joint piece, I'm going to do 3 of the side pieces thick, so it'll be 1, 2, 3 on top of each other, and the toe joints will be 1 thick as well, and then the toes are going to be kind of an amalgamation, probably going to be a little bit of, probably going to have to make them the standard way, which kind of sucks, because there's really not any better way to do it, but that's what we're going to do, so, and speed camera, go! So, now I have 6 of these, 3 for each foot. 2 of these, so these will go like this. So, once we glue them all together and even them up, 6 of these, 3 for each foot, like this. And 4 of these, 1 for each toe, like so. So that's the basis for all of those. This is the waist joint that I have. This is the already cut 2 together top piece. Basically, I'm going to be cutting it kind of at an angle so it's even to go on top of here. This has now been trimmed up, looking real nice. So, alright, so I'm going to take a break. I think that would be all for this episode. When we come back, I'll have all this stuff glued together, and I will have figured out a plan for the toes. Alright, good night everyone.